Hey everybody, this is Scare Rookie and welcome back to another edition of Scare Rookie Productions Presents. Today we're going to be talking cemetery walls. What we're going to be using is the 1.5 inch thick pink board of styrofoam to produce a stone in appearance cemetery wall. It's 3 foot high, it'll have a 1 foot top shelf to represent the top part of the wall, and there will be wrought iron out of PVC fence poles coming out of the top of it. So it'll be a very imposing 6 foot tall stone cemetery wall fence. And what we're going to be doing today is actually cutting out the styrofoam for the stone itself. So what we're going to be talking about right now is what are the materials that you would need and what are the techniques that I'll be using for this project. So the first thing you're going to need obviously is the foam board. And then secondly, there's a couple things you could do. You can hand draw your own. You could use different mold sets depending on what your interests are. I prefer to use this. This is a cement mold that you use to build walkways within your yard, those type of things. They come in different styles, so if you want the round stone look or whatever, I prefer this because it's a little bit more square stone brick combination. So it looks really well, and it is a good representation of what a stone wall might look like. Basically, we'll lay this on the foam board, we'll trace out each of the segments, and then that will make it ready for sculpting. Okay? Second thing you're going to need, again, a variety of ways of doing this. When it comes to cutting out the grout lines to reveal the stonework, I like using a hot wire foam factory kit, sculpting kit. This is not a cheesy advertisement, it just is what I am using, and I wanted you to be aware of that. The actual tool that I'll be using is this. It's a hot wire tool. Basically, there's 2 little screws that protrude from this. So if I lay it flat on the stone, on the styrofoam, it gives me my depth. All I gotta do is just bend this wire to the depth that I want. As long as I keep these flush on the styrofoam and cut down, it gives me a nice even grout line cut every time. So that's the tool we'll be using. The other thing I will do is after I've cut my grout lines out, I will then follow that up with a razor blade. And the only reason is appearance. My cemetery wall is going to be a very old, unattended cemetery wall. I want the grout lines, I don't want them perfectly smooth and neat. I want them to be roughed up, granular, so that when you paint them, it highlights that, and then therefore you see that it's grout. It looks a little bit more realistic to me. Also, I use this to shave the edges of the stones off. Once you sculpt them out, they're like razor sharp, like perfect smooth edges. I don't want that. So I'll use a razor blade, rough up all the edges of the stone, pop chunks out of it, slash grooves in it, just to make the stones look with imperfections and cracks and all those type of things. Using the razor blade makes it very quick and does a pretty good job. Once I've done all that, then I follow up with a heat gun. I will basically heat up all parts of the styrofoam, melt it down. With the pink foam board, the heat gun does 2 things. One is it creates more imperfections. It will melt away some of the styrofoam. It creates indentations within the top part of the smooth surface of styrofoam, and it also, because it's melting the top part of the stone, it gives it a rough, granular look, so it looks more like stone than just like this perfectly shiny, smooth edge of styrofoam. So this serves multiple purpose, and it just basically helps with the aging process. But it also, when it melts this pink board, it's like hard plastic, which is great for painting, and it makes it a little bit more durable. And then lastly, you'll need some paint brushes. I do have a little air gun that I use that I'll do most of the mass painting when we do the flat black, because you will need 2 paints, or 3 paints actually, flat black. Any black latex paint will work. You could use spray paint on this type of board. It'll eat away a little bit, but not bad. Gray paint, I just mix black and acrylic black and acrylic white paint to come up with gray. I paint my grout lines with that. And then, of course, white latex paint, which we'll use for the whitewashing. And that's all dry brush work. It's all detail work, but it'll just give it that nice stone appearance. So paintbrush, black paint, gray paint, and white paint. So that's what you're going to need to actually start the cemetery wall and all the parts you'll need to actually build it. So we'll move on to the next segment, and I'll show you where we're at as far as marking it off and starting to sculpt. So we'll be right back.